It's an exciting time to be in the commercial construction part of the industry. There's a lot of really fun technologies we can deploy in buildings. And what's fun is we don't necessarily need to invent much. So this is standard LED light off the shelf. Normally, you'd feed this with AC voltage. You'd have a driver off to the side. What we can do is with no change, same exact fixture, if we just change how we're powering this light, we can give it DC voltage directly. When we do that, this light fixture will last 2.5 times as long. So that 2.5 times as long for no functional change to the actual fixture itself. And that's any LED light. The reason for that is in the regular AC voltage lights, they have that driver. There's little capacitors inside of it. And that's where you're actually going to have the failure point is the AC voltage component. This might be rated to 30 or 50,000 hours, but this never gets there. So when you go around in a commercial facility, if you decide to provide DC power to your light fixtures and nothing else, that light fixture will last 2.5 times as long. The driver still needs to go somewhere. So depending on the product, we might put the driver in a switch like this. This is a company called Loom.io, and this is what's called Class 2 power, or power over Ethernet. But they've developed a product that allows them to do more wattage out of each port. They also allow us to do DC voltage input. So what happens is when I have a battery energy storage system, say there's a Tesla style or others, if I have that battery, I can now pull energy directly off of it at 48 volts in this particular case. And when I do that, I'm much more efficient. But if you didn't want to, we can just feed that with AC voltage. The key is that the light is getting DC voltage and we're moving the driver, that AC component, we're moving it somewhere else because it's going to fail, but instead of failing up in the roof, up in the ceiling, it's failing back in a panel where it's more convenient. Another use case. Now think distance. So instead of like a tilted warehouse, or maybe I've got 10, 20,000 square feet, now let's look at a large facility, thousands of feet of distance. Now I go to what's called class 4 power. Class 4 power is 450 volts fault managed DC voltage. And there are several different brands that are out there, Volt servers who we're closely affiliated with. And what they allow us to do is now we have this pulsed energy. So I can take that DC voltage and I can send it thousands of feet on very, very small wires. It's safe, it's DC voltage, and it can be in the same raceway as your IT systems. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to rip something out that's already functional. But if we're doing a retrofit, rather than going through and need to establish new raceways and pathways for all my lighting loads separate from, say, all my IT loads, we can use the same raceway, the same basket tray to run all this out because it's all DC voltage systems. Additionally, when you look at facilities that need a high amount of light, say indoor vertical farming specifically, what that often looks like is you have all these light fixtures. They're, once again, there's native DC voltage. And when we feed them AC voltage, they've got to have all these drivers, all that power distribution. In that farming application, it's wet environment, as well as we're providing all of those circuits out. When you take that back via Volt servers class 4 equipment, it's a safe electrical load, and we can directly power each of those lights off those drivers. So now as you home run all that equipment, it allows us to have very, very small conductors, and it gives us a great deal of control, lighting control, as well as how we're doing our adds, moves, changes, replacements. So great appeal there as well. The other side we're looking at commercially is the electric vehicle charging. That doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be a level 3 Tesla style supercharger, just how we do our wall connectors. So on my side, I've had Teslas for many, many years, driven hundreds of thousands of miles. And I can tell you the overwhelming majority of commercial wall connectors, that's the charger you plug in, are broken. The Tesla ones typically work. You have some charge point ones work, but overall, we go into a commercial property and there's a good chance that I'm going to go try to plug in and that wall connector, that charger is not going to work. We can simplify that. So with us, we are a Tesla energy certified installer, and we can take their universal wall connector, meaning it can both connect to Tesla specific vehicles and others as both plug types. And what we can do is we can feed that with one breaker and have multiple systems at the same time. So we can now dynamically adjust how fast that charger is charging based upon how many vehicles are connected to it. That core functionality is we're hoping to reduce the cost of the installation while also enabling you to have a happy customer experience where they can just plug in and it just works and it becomes less of a headache. There's a lot of other things we would like to do in the commercial building, but foundationally, we like to start off with the simple stuff. So your lights, your EV chargers, and your IT. And we'd like to connect them together using DC voltage where possible. When we do that, we can do more things with it. And that allows us to then collaborate and discuss other things moving into those buildings. But we'd love to address those projects with you. It doesn't need to use a battery. It doesn't need to use solar. But if you do, now we can start connecting things together in unique ways for equipment that you're already going to buy. You don't necessarily have to change even the brand you're selecting in some cases. We're just changing how we're connecting it together. Appreciate the time. Look forward to working with you.